Great Silence was a lie. For centuries, we listened to the empty dark. Our radio dishes were vast, sensitive flowers. They tilted toward 1,000 distant suns. They heard nothing but the hiss of empty space. The star science experts told us we were alone. They published papers on the grand, lonely accident of our existence. They said the math was clear. We were a miracle, a fluke. We believed them for a little while. We sent out our own signals. We broadcast our music and our mathematics. We sent our greetings to the silent void. We were lonely children shouting into a cave. We hoped for an echo. There was never an echo. The silence felt wrong. It was too perfect, too complete. It was not the quiet of an empty room. It was the quiet of a room where everyone is holding their breath. We sent probes, tiny, brave messengers. They crossed the cold gulf between worlds. They found the edge of our cage. It was a field of distorted physics, a perimeter fence woven from gravity itself. The silence was not an absence. It was a carefully constructed prison wall. We were not alone. We were in quarantine. Our solemn vow was forged in that discovery. The knowledge changed us completely. We were not lonely children anymore. We were inmates in a star-born asylum. An unseen jailer had locked us in our own solar system. They had decided we were not ready for the galaxy. They had decided we were not worthy. That decision was not theirs to make. So we made a promise to ourselves. We would not be contained by an ancient, arrogant power. We would not rattle the bars of our cage forever. We would shatter them. Our grief for a universe we never knew became our fuel. Our fear of the unknown jailer became our weapon. We turned our telescopes into targeting arrays. We converted our asteroid miners into warships. Every factory on Earth, Mars, and the moons of Jupiter stopped making toys. They started making tools of liberation. Our children learned star science alongside weapons theory. They memorized orbital mechanics and fleet formations. We did not want a war, but the war had already been declared against us. It was a cold war fought with silence and isolation. A verdict had been passed on us without a trial. We decided to file our appeal in person. Our starships were the ink. Their hulls were our righteous anger. We arrived at their doorstep. The first Stargate was a thing of impossible beauty. It hung in the void like a crown of spun light. It was a testament to their power, their artistry. They were the wardens, the self-proclaimed keepers of galactic order. They had built these gates to connect their vast empire. They had also built them to keep undesirables out. We were the undesirables. Our fleet was a collection of repurposed freighters and science vessels. They were ugly, brutalist things next to the Warden's Gate. They were fists of gray metal and burning plasma. We did not broadcast greetings. We did not offer treaties or open negotiations. They had their chance to talk for 10,000 years. We only offered a warning, a single, system-wide broadcast. We are humanity, and we are coming out. The transmission lasted less than 5 seconds. Then our opening salvo struck the gate. We did not wait for a response. We did not ask for permission. We were not knocking on the door to be polite. We were kicking it down. The age of silent obedience was over. The sound of our first volley was the first word in a new conversation. It was a conversation they would learn to regret. The sound of our chains breaking echoed in the void. It was the sound of torpedoes detonating against energy screens. It was the scream of our engines burning at full power. The wardens were stunned. Their patrol fleet moved to intercept us. Their ships were elegant, like silver predators of the deep. They expected a clean, honorable fight. They expected us to line up and trade fire like gentlemen. They had us confused with someone who cared about rules. We did not fight with honor. We fought with everything we had. We turned the laws of physics into a cudgel. We weaponized gravity itself. Our ships fired micro-black holes, tiny singularities that lasted for a second. They tore through Warden's shields. They warped their perfect formations into chaos. Our missiles did not just explode. They unfolded into webs of plasma, shorting out their systems. They thought of space as a dueling ground. We knew it was a jungle. We used their Stargate against them. Our hackers, digital ghosts raised on a world of tangled data, dove into their systems. They cracked encryption that had stood for ages. The Wardens thought their network was impenetrable. They never planned for an enemy who thought code was just another weapon. We fed the gate a new destination, a small, dead star in the system's far reaches. Then we overloaded the power core. The gate did not just shut down. It ripped a hole in space-time, a wound that bled radiation. It was a message. Nothing you build is safe from us. The Wardens finally learned our name. They learned it from the wreckage of their patrol fleet. They learned it from the dying shriek of their Stargate. The local commanders could not comprehend our defiance. We were primitives from a quarantined mud ball. We were supposed to be awed by their power. We were supposed to beg for their acceptance. They could not understand why we chose violence over submission. The concept was alien to them. So the ancient empire sent a real fleet. This was not a local patrol. This was a fist of imperial power. Dozens of warships, each a kilometer long, translated into our system. They broadcast their message on all frequencies. It was a message of order and peace, their order, their peace. They called us disruptors. They called us a plague. They demanded our unconditional surrender. They promised a swift and painless re-education. That was their first and maybe biggest mistake. They promised a painless lesson. They must not have kids. Their fleet was led by a ship called the Vigilance. It was a legend in the Warden Empire. A ship that had pacified 100 rebellious worlds. Its captain was a decorated hero. He expected us to see his fleet and fall to our knees. He expected us to be terrified. He was half right. We were terrified. But we had learned to use our terror as a weapon. They called us a plague. We decided to show them just how infectious we could be. We found another caged world in our warpath. Huddled in the shadow of a gas giant were the Varen. Their planet was a patchwork of refugee camps and ruins. The Varen were a species of insectoid artists. They were gentle, frail creatures with 4 delicate arms. They showed us their cities, shattered works of glass and song. They showed us the scars on their world, scars left by the Warden's version of peace. The Varen had dared to invent a new form of music, a type of song that resonated with the fabric of the universe. The Wardens deemed it disruptive, a threat to the grand, silent order. So they came with the Vigilance and its fleet. They did not bomb the Varen into submission. They simply pacified them. They destroyed their art. They shattered their instruments. They erased 1,000 years of culture in a single week. We saw in them a reflection of our own fate. We saw what the Wardens planned for us. A quiet existence in a comfortable cage. A life with no sharp edges, no loud noises, no messy emotions. We gave the Varen food and medical supplies. They looked at our ugly, weaponized ships. They saw not conquerors, but kindred spirits. They saw the same desperate fire in our eyes. They decided to give us something in return. A secret. The Varen shared their oldest secrets with us. They were an old race. They had watched the Wardens for millennia. They had been caged for so long they knew the shape of every bar. They told us of the Wardens' greatest strength and their greatest weakness. The Wardens were an empire of absolute centralization. They believed in perfect top-down control. They did not innovate, they perfected. Their entire empire relied on singular, irreplaceable nexuses. Stargates were one example, but there were others. Communication hubs, production facilities, command centers. Each one was a masterpiece of engineering. Each one was a single point of failure. The Wardens could not imagine an enemy striking these vital hearts. They were too well defended, too sacred. It was like trying to attack a god in its own temple. The Vi. Rin gave us the location of one such nexus, a command and control station hidden in the Cygnus Nebula. It coordinated all Warden fleet movements in the sector. To the Wardens, it was unthinkable that we would attack it. To us, it sounded like a party, and we were about to be the guest of honor. The Vi, Rin had given us a key. We were about to use it to unlock the whole galaxy. The gilded trap was set at Cygnus. The Warden command station was a tempting target. It hung in the middle of a dense nebula. Its energy signature was a beacon in the swirling gas. We knew it was a trap. The Wardens were not subtle. They broadcast its location on a barely encrypted channel. They practically sent us an invitation with a little map. They were baiting us. They wanted to crush our entire fleet in one decisive battle. We accepted their invitation. Our fleet burned hard for Cygnus. We made our approach obvious and loud. Our engines screamed our defiance across the system. The Wardens watched us come. Their fleet, led by the mighty Vigilance, hid within the nebula's thick clouds. They had positioned themselves perfectly. They had set up overlapping fields of fire. When we reached the bait, they would spring their trap. The jaws of their fleet would close around us. But we were not walking into their trap. We were building our own. We had a plan born of desperation and human ingenuity. The Wardens understood force. They understood strategy and tactics. They did not understand asymmetrical warfare. They did not understand an enemy willing to break the rules of reality itself. They thought they were the hunters. They were about to learn they were the prey. And the forest was on fire. Our gambit was one of gravity and light. We did not engage the command station directly. Instead, we sent a single, heavily modified science vessel ahead. It was a ship called the Newton's Apple. It was packed not with weapons, but with one massive, experimental device, a gravity lance. It was designed to manipulate gravitational fields. We had never tested it on this scale. If it worked, it would rewrite the battlefield. If it failed, it would just be a very fancy firecracker. The Newton's Apple reached the heart of the nebula. It aimed its lance not at the Warden fleet, but at a nearby star. It was a small, unstable red dwarf, a forgotten star on the edge of collapse. The lance fired. A beam of pure, focused gravity shot across the void. It struck the star's core. The star shuddered. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the star did something it was not supposed to do for another 1,000,000 years. It went supernova. A wall of incandescent energy erupted outwards. The Warden fleet, hidden in the nebula, was caught completely by surprise. Their perfect formation became their tomb. Shields designed for weapon impacts buckled under the raw power of a dying star. Hulls made of their strongest alloys vaporized. The Vigilance, the pride of their empire, was engulfed in starfire. Their trap was sprung on them. Their gilded cage became a furnace. Our victory cost us a single star. It also cost us the flagship of our own small fleet, the Defiance. She had shielded the Newton's Apple during its final run. She took the brunt of the Warden's panicked, reflexive fire. Her captain, a woman named Eva Rostova, held their ground. She made sure the gravity lance could complete its work. The Defiance and her crew of 6,000 souls were lost. They were heroes swallowed by the very fire they had unleashed. We mourned our dead. We etched their names onto a memorial wall aboard our new flagship, the Retribution. But we did not slow our advance. The sacrifice of the Defiance had bought us something priceless. It had bought us time and momentum. The Warden's entire command structure in the sector was shattered. Their mightiest fleet was a cloud of incandescent vapor. We had punched a hole in their empire. The loss stung. It was a bitter reminder that this war was not a game. Every victory had a price. Every triumph was paid for in blood and sacrifice. We took the pain and turned it into fuel. The memory of the Defiance burned in our engines. Her name became a promise that we would see this through to the end, that their sacrifice would not be in vain. We were fighting for our freedom. Now, we were also fighting for them. For the first time, an ancient empire felt fear. The Wardens stopped broadcasting their threats and demands for surrender. The arrogant proclamations of peace and order went silent. The loss of the Cygnus fleet was a shock to their system. They had ruled for eons. They had never faced an enemy like us. An enemy who would use a star as a weapon. An enemy who would sacrifice their own flagship for a tactical advantage. Their entire strategy had been based on intimidation, on the assumption of their own technological and moral superiority. We had shattered that assumption. We had shown them that our will to be free was stronger than their will to control. So they changed their tactics. They stopped trying to pacify us. They stopped trying to re-educate us. They started building weapons meant for extermination. Their shipyards, silent for centuries, roared back to life. They began constructing ships designed not for policing, but for annihilation. Planet killers, system-wide sterilizers. The Vi Rin sent us panicked whispers. They showed us intercepted schematics. The Wardens were preparing to wipe our homeworld off the star maps. They were going to solve the human problem permanently. They were afraid of us. And a cornered empire is the most dangerous beast in the galaxy. We had one final, desperate target. We could not fight a war of attrition. The Warden Empire was too vast, too ancient. They could outbuild us 1,000 to 1. We had to strike the head of the snake. The Vi Rin had given us the key. Their data vaults held information on the most important nexus of all, a world that was the heart of the Warden's military-industrial complex, a fortress world called HFY Loss. HFY's Loss was where the Wardens built their fleets. It was where they forged their weapons. It was a planet-sized factory, shielded and armed to the teeth. Attacking it was suicide. The Wardens knew this. They had left it relatively undefended by their main fleet. They believed it was impregnable. Their arrogance was, once again, their greatest weakness. They never expected us to be crazy enough to try. So we gathered every ship we had left. The Retribution, the Newton's Apple, the repurposed freighters and miners, every vessel that could still burn its engines. We abandoned our defensive positions. We ignored the new extermination fleets they were building. We burned all our fuel. We pushed our drives to their breaking point. All our fleets raced for one single target. The foundry world of Xi, Loss. It was an all-or-nothing gamble. Win or be erased from history. The battle for Xi Loss was not fought in the cold void of space. It was fought in fire and smoke. We shattered the fortress world. We bypassed the orbital defense platforms. We simply threw our ships at the planet. We used our smaller corvettes and frigates as kinetic missiles. We crashed them into the shield generators. We tore holes in their planetary defenses through sheer, brute force. It was a brutal, ugly tactic. And it worked. Our troop transports followed in the wake of the kamikaze ships. We fell like iron rain upon their greatest stronghold. The battle was fought in the atmosphere. It was fought in the canyons between colossal factory complexes. Our fighters dueled with Warden interceptors under a sky thick with flak. Our dropships dodged laser fire. They landed our soldiers on the metallic plains of the foundry. We were not Marines in powered armor. We were engineers and technicians. We were the people who had built the ships. Now we were the ones fighting on the ground. We carried plasma cutters and industrial tools. We used them to carve our way into the heart of their world. The Wardens sent their ground forces, sleek, robotic sentinels. They were designed for riot control, not total war. They were no match for desperate humans who knew how to break things. We found the truth hidden within the core of the foundry. We fought our way down, level by level. We descended into the planet's metallic heart. We reached the central command nexus. It was a vast, silent chamber. In the center was not a computer or a command throne. It was a gateway, a shimmering, unstable tear in the fabric of reality. And on the other side, we saw them. The Wardens were not jailers. They were guardians. The great silence was not a prison wall. It was a dike holding back a flood. The creatures on the other side of the gate were things of pure chaos, beings of non-baryonic matter and impossible geometries. They swarmed against the gate, a tide of cosmic horror. The Wardens had been fighting a silent, endless war for millions of years. They were not keeping us in. They were keeping them out. The energy from the foundry world did not just build ships. It powered the containment field. It kept the gate stable. By shattering their world, we had weakened the lock. The truth was horrifying. The Wardens had seen our aggression, our rapid expansion. They saw our willingness to weaponize physics itself. They feared what would happen if we drew the attention of the things beyond the gate. They quarantined us not out of arrogance, but out of terror. They were protecting the galaxy from us, and protecting us from a truth we could not handle. We have become the keepers of a broken gate. We won our freedom. The Warden Empire, its heart shattered, collapsed into civil war and chaos. We were victorious. We were the masters of our own destiny. But we inherited their terrible burden. The gate at Psi-Los is failing. The things on the other side can feel its weakness. They are pushing. The Vi, Rin, and other freed races look to us for leadership. They see us as liberators. They do not know the terrible secret we discovered. We, the noisy, aggressive upstarts, are now the galaxy's first and last line of defense. We stand guard over the Hellgate we carelessly broke open. We are building our own ships now in the ruins of the Warden's foundry. They are not ships of exploration. They are not ships of conquest. They are ships for a war we are already losing. The great silence is over. The galaxy is full of voices now. But soon, there may be only one sound left. A terrible, endless scream from beyond the stars. We didn't come in peace. We came to break our chains. We did not realize those chains were holding the universe together. Now, we are the Wardens. And the true night is coming.